Hey everyone, welcome back to Thrive with Sahil. And today we have Rudraksh with us, an entrepreneur and an ex tennis athlete. And I'll let him introduce himself. But before that, we're going to go to see the top three news of the week. And for first, we have Aaron Rai, who makes history at the PGA Championship. He's an English golfer and he becomes the first Englishman in 107 years to win the event. I think
Wow.
that was really inspiring, and I think uh, he produced great clutch shots under huge pressure and proving that persistence pays off after years of grinding on the tour. And secondly, we have Wings for Life World Run raises 9.2 million for spinal cord research, and it was around 34,000 people across 173 countries. And all the people who paid the money are elite athletes, casual runners, even wheelchair participants, and they everyone came together for the bigger cause.
Wow.
And thirdly, we have my favorite Ronda Rousey making a comeback, and in 17 seconds, she made Gina Carano submit with an armbar. I went to watch the highlights, and the highlights was 40 seconds. It's insane, and she's 39 years old. No, this athlete is an inspiration. And it just tells you about the love for the sport she has. All right. So coming back to you, Rudraj, I'll let you introduce yourself to the audience, and then we can start talking about your experiences.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Sahil. It's been a minute since
Yeah.
we last saw each other.
Yeah.
But so I'm Rudraksh. I'm a former tennis player, and I played pretty much throughout my childhood, into my teenage years, and also into my early 20s. And grinding away in the circuit for a long time. And I still like to stay in touch with the sport, but obviously, um, the bulk of my experience with the sport has been as a player.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's kind of what my introduction is and what my link to the sport of tennis is.
Yeah. We used to train at the same academy, and it was fun times. It was such a
Yeah, I
great
remember your
time.
forehands.
My forehands.
I remember Sahil belting his forehands when
Dude,
I
you're
first met him.
you're making fun of me, dude. My forehands were the worst.
Hey, I'm only telling you what I saw. I didn't see you play a whole lot,
Okay.
but what I did see, I remember the big forehands.
Nice, nice. So when did you start playing tennis?
So I started a little late by tennis standards. I remember going to the tennis courts as a kid. When I was very, very young, when I was 2, 3 years old, we had tennis courts very near our house.
Mhm.
And my parents used to take me, and I detested the sport. I was so small, I was so skinny, I couldn't even hold up the racket, right? And I didn't like it. And then I avoided like the sport of tennis for the longest time. And then India hosted the Commonwealth Games in the year
Mhm.
2010. And I, saw everyone competing. And that was the year Somdev Devarman won gold
Mhm.
in tennis.
Yeah,
Incidentally, that was the only year that tennis has been held as a sport in the Commonwealth Games.
yeah.
And I was like, I want to play a sport. And so my parents were like, do you want to play tennis? And I was like, no, I don't want to play tennis because I didn't like it as a kid.
Mhm.
But, as the cookie crumbles, like it's always funny. Things have a way of finding you. I tried many different sports. I tried squash, I tried football, I tried cricket. None of them clicked. And then one day I remember I was watching TV and Federer was playing. He was playing at the Paris Masters.
Mhm.
And like the sound of the ball hitting the racket was so fascinating to me. The
Yeah,
twang that especially of the TV with the acoustics, it was
yeah.
so fascinating that I threw a hissy fit and I was like to my mom and dad that I want to play this sport. And they were
Mhm.
like, you keep telling me that, like you don't want to play this.
Mhm.
But that's what I settled on, and it was love at first sight from then on. I think,
Mhm.
it's a love that keeps going till date.
Yeah. And dude, Federer making you play tennis, I mean, he's inspiration for so many of us, but I was just watching him yesterday, just old clips of him. Dude, that guy is like poetry in motion. Like
Eh,
you can't
The way
play.
that
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
the way the way that Roger plays is just something different. Like these days, tennis has evolved. I feel like tennis is evolving very drastically yet very subtly at the same time,
Yeah,
because you're seeing an evolution of what these guys introduced as like the super athlete, right?
yeah.
But tennis has become very like baseline oriented. It's a lot about hitting the ball very, very big. Few days ago, I
Mm,
was talking to like someone who's still playing on their tour, and they were talking about how people don't customize their rackets as much anymore. People are playing with lighter models to get like racket head speed,
mm,
and so you get a little accustomed to that. It's still not changed enough for us to be like, okay, it's a completely different sport, right?
mm.
And then like uh, you watch these guys, they hit the ball so hard, and the athleticism
Yeah,
is so great.
yeah,
And then a few days ago, I was watching highlights of Federer, right? And I was like, oh my God, this guy's playing a completely different sport. Like the way that he used
yeah.
to play, how direct he was with how attacking he was. That's just like, I don't know, that's just like once in a generation kind of thing to see.
Mm,
And it brings a lot of nostalgia
yeah,
from my childhood whenever I watch him play.
yeah. Any other athletes from other sports you're a fan of?
So I quite enjoy watching football. I'm a
Oh,
big fan of Liverpool.
no way,
And
no
something
way.
that I really resonated with was Jurgen Klopp's concept of heavy metal football.
Yeah.
The way that I'm attached to sport is there's a lot of sentimentality to it.
Uh-huh.
So there's a lot of emotion. So whenever like players play with a lot of emotion, I feel
Mm,
very attached to it. And Liverpool being like a heritage club,
yeah,
being like a legacy club,
yeah,
and with the transformation they had under Jurgen Klopp, that
yeah,
really stayed with me.
yeah.
So huge, huge fan of him. And again, in
Okay.
football, like the players that I like the most aren't necessarily the flashiest ones. They're the ones that I see are like working the hardest or have that one canny ability about them to grit
Mm,
and scrap it out. So
mm.
I love there's a player called James Milner, right? So
Dude,
he's
wait,
the
wait,
youngest.
wait, hold on to that thought, okay? One second. I don't know if we had this conversation before, but
No way.
you didn't know that?
No way.
Dude,
No, I didn't. No
I'm a
way.
big Liverpool fan. Okay, we're gonna do this
That's
podcast
crazy.
with the station on.
Oh
Let's
my
go.
God, I wish I had my Liverpool shirt.
Dude,
I even have like, the limited edition sneakers and everything. Like it was a dream to watch them when I was
yeah.
living in England. I had a
Mm,
chance to watch them a
mm,
fair few times.
mm,
But the thing is, like, it's so hard to get into Anfield, right? So whenever I got tickets to watch them, I was always in the away end. I would sneak
uh,
in. My friends were like Brighton fans, Brentford fans. So I'd just sneak in with
mm,
them because they would get like their tickets. So I had to like celebrate, very, very hush hush. Like I'd just be with them and then
mm.
like, score a goal. That was also the season that we won the Premier League just now last year.
Yeah,
I was there.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then I had to like, hide my excitement because I was in the away end.
Uh,
So
uh,
it was pretty fun. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, like my favorite players are always the ones that I see are they just have that quality. And I feel like Liverpool as a club overall has that
the,
quality, at least used to. It's not been a great
yes,
season for us.
yes.
But history backs us. So that's a good thing. But I used to love James Milner just because
Yeah,
of the way that he represented the sport
yeah,
and his longevity. And I love me a scrapper. Like I love Andy Robertson a lot. Just
yeah,
because of like he brings a little bit of personality that I like to see.
yeah,
So it's always those kinds of characters that I've really enjoyed watching,
yeah.
even in other sports. I was a huge fan of boxing as well, and I really enjoyed watching fighters like Joe Calzaghe,
Mm,
or in recent history, I used to like Triple G a lot. So
mm,
um, those are mainly the two main sports that I watch outside of tennis.
mm.
So
Nice man, nice. But yeah, Liverpool. Yeah, I'm so surprised that we never had this conversation before.
yeah, that's kind of crazy. Like
Yeah,
I'm
we
pretty
know each
crazy
other
for.
for so long, but yeah,
I
uh,
know, I know.
yeah, but yeah, like James Milner, dude, I think he still plays for Brighton now,
Yeah, he
and
broke the record for most appearances. He
insane.
scored his first goal in 2002 for Leeds against Chelsea. Like that's insane. In
Yeah,
2002, still playing. That is
yeah,
some unbelievable longevity.
yeah. Nice, man, nice. All right, coming back to you.
Hmm.
Uh, so you started playing tennis, and Federer was your inspiration to start.
Hmm.
Uh, what about afterwards? When did you realize, okay, I'm good enough to go for competitions and see if I can put the skills to use?
See, it took a minute. Like when I grew up, I was very small and I was very skinny and I was very underdeveloped, right? So
Mm,
it took a long time for me to build up confidence to
mm,
actually play and win matches.
mm,
I was good right from the start because you like I had an ability. My forehand still looks exactly the same as
mm,
the first day that I started playing tennis.
mm,
And but I had a lot of self-doubt because I thought I was unathletic. I was so small. Everyone was so much taller than me.
mm,
So it took me a minute to find like the right combination. Also, the environment in which I started playing tennis was a little too pressurizing. I
mm,
feel like I started private lessons too early. And
mm,
then when I switched from that to doing group lessons, and I could see there were other players around me,
mm,
and I was able to play with them day after day, and I realized that okay, these guys aren't that good.
mm,
So then I made the transition to, I started playing on the domestic circuit, and I started doing fairly well fairly quickly. And then I
mm,
went, like I was ranked pretty high in my age group, in
mm,
the juniors.
mm,
And then I knew like my relationship to tennis wasn't born so much out of like I'm playing and I'm getting good and I want to play it. After a point, I realized tennis became a little bit of a survival mechanism for me.
mm,
And so it wasn't a question of, oh, am I good enough to play? It was a question of, I need to become good enough to keep playing this because
mm,
this is my outlet. This is what is becoming my identity. Right.
yeah.
So that was kind of the process
Mm,
and the mindset I had. So it was never a question of, am I good enough? It was a question of, I must be good. I must make myself good enough,
mm,
to be able to play.
yeah. We talk about identity a lot in sports psychology research about athletes who like we encourage athletes to have multiple identities,
Yeah.
not just the athletic identity, but some other things because you never know what happens in your career. So
Exactly.
a lot of athletes struggle when they have this strong athletic identity and yeah, and then if something goes bad, they have injuries or they stop playing, and suddenly they have to deal with this transition now from that identity to something else. So yeah, yeah, it's really interesting how your survival mechanism was tennis,
See,
and
for me, it was a case of I was using tennis to escape the identity that I had outside of it because, and this
interesting.
unfolded not in like a very linear way in my life. So I used to do very well in school and
Mm,
I was doing well on paper, right? But internally, there was something wrong in my head.
mm,
And I did not have the tools, the language or capacity to pin down, that
yeah.
I'm not feeling good where I am. And it
Mm,
used to show up in many strange ways.
mm,
And I struggled to find outlets to kind
mm,
of have that because in school, when it came to academic things, I excelled very quickly, very, very quickly. Right. So the sort of attitude from my caregivers and in school was that okay, this guy has it sorted. So I didn't
mm,
have the tools to kind of be like, okay, something's wrong. I don't feel like I'm able to interface with the world.
yeah.
And that's around the time when tennis came into my life.
Mm,
And it gave me an outlet where there was kind of a blank slate. Everything
mm,
was upwards.
mm,
And it was ultimately also very stimulating for me. And I realized that the root cause of this identity crisis, I realized it when I was 20 years old and I got diagnosed with ADHD first. And
mm,
then I realized that, okay, I am neurodivergent.
mm,
And there was like, there were some issues with cognition and stuff as well.
mm,
And then it was sort of looking back at my life and how I played tennis and the tendency that manifested, it seemed to, completely make sense in
mm,
retrospect.
mm,
So it kind of evolved in a very strange sort of way, and it came into my life at the right time where I needed it, but at the same time, because of the way that I clung to it, my relationship with the sport got very damaged throughout my teenage years.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. So how was that process like? You getting diagnosed with ADHD, and then you were still athlete at that point. So,
Yes, I was still competing.
mm,
So essentially, when I realized that I should pursue a diagnosis was midway through COVID. I
mm,
had a terrible wrist injury, so I
mm,
couldn't really play. And as it
mm,
is, there was a lockdown, you couldn't travel or anything. And it was
mm,
the first time in my life because I started competing when I was around 12 years old.
mm,
And after the age of 14, I was fully on the circuit all the time. So I was traveling 35, 40 weeks of the year. And I was
mm,
just tennis, 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 tennis. That was my whole life. And you have to balance academics in the middle and
yeah.
expectations of, your university, your school, your parents, whatever. So the first time in my life that I had a prolonged pause and I could really sit with my own thoughts. And then
Mm,
I started to see certain patterns. And it was around the same time that I discovered like some first person narratives of people who would had ADHD and autism and stuff. And I
mm,
was like, man, it's kind of making sense to me, but
mm,
surely not. And then
mm,
it really stuck with me, and then it emboldened me to get a diagnosis. And then when I got a diagnosis, like it was like opening Pandora's box in terms of, oh my God, my life makes sense now. But
mm,
in terms of how the relationship played out, it was very strange because I, in a way, tennis gave me an outlet where I could learn to problem solve in real time and
mm,
do it in a very authentic way. Something that neurodivergent people struggle with a lot is masking, right?
mm,
So I don't like this word at all, but quote unquote high functioning people with neurodivergences learn to do a lot of masking and
mm,
they learn to fit into like the mold of what it takes to study and do well and stuff, and then they have a burnout by the time they reach
yeah.
their 20s or at whatever point in their life it
Mm,
manifests. For me, tennis gave me an opportunity where I could problem solve in my own terms, which
mm,
is what made it so very interesting and exciting for me. It also gave me a very good brand of stimulation that kept me
mm,
anchored,
mm,
through what was proving to be a very troubling teenage phase, just because I did not understand my own brain. And I feel like people around me also didn't understand my own brain. Right.
yeah.
So support at that time always looked a lot like interventions that something's going wrong, something's going on, let's try and fix that. Instead
Yeah.
of trying to encourage me to develop my own identity and to encourage me to find my own brand of how I approach problem solving. But
Mm,
tennis gave me a blank slate. But at the same time, I feel like because I clung on to it so much, it created a lot of pressure on me. And
yeah.
it is people with ADHD are very sensitive to rejection, right? So every loss would hurt a lot,
Mm,
especially the perception of how people perceived you based on
mm,
that loss. That
yeah.
was like my identity was derived by because tennis is a very like you have to have the memory of a goldfish, right? You have
Yeah.
to forget.
Oh,
If you're
yeah.
playing 30 weeks of the year, you do
Yeah.
well like 4 in the year, and that is what
Yeah.
your ranking is based on. I
Yeah.
would take every loss very hard. And they say that the more you lose, right,
Mm,
the more you get used to it, the more you tolerate it. For me, it was different. For me, it felt like if I was playing 99, if I was losing 99 matches and I would lose 100th, I
mm,
would feel the burden of all 100 losses at the same time.
yeah.
And then again, I didn't have the tools to deal with the way that my mind approached the world. And I developed some very interesting tendencies that I later understood as things like overstimulation or obsessive compulsive tendencies. But
Mm,
back then, I couldn't interpret things like that. Like I would have a lot of difficulties with dust. And if you're playing tennis in India, you're in the dust all the time, right? And that would cause a lot of overstimulation. And then like the fact that there were so many different types of sounds coming in, those can be very difficult. And that there were times that I would completely shut down on the
yeah.
court. I would have like a complete meltdown,
Mm,
but at the same time, you can't afford to melt down because you're playing. So then I would hide it. You wouldn't like internally, like my heart would be beating out of my chest and I would be having panic attacks. I remember I used to have panic attacks on court and it would feel like someone just sitting on my chest and just like, decompressing me, but I couldn't show it, nor
mm,
did I know how to deal with it. So I was just kind of there. I remember there was this one match I was playing. It was the third set and it was 6-all in the final set tiebreak. And there was some dispute or something that caused me to like completely like overheat, right?
mm,
And I remember I had a panic attack while drinking water and I couldn't like show it. And then
mm,
I went and I was like tapping the ball to like serve and I didn't know how to hold the racket. Like I clocked out so much that I
yeah.
was like, I don't know how to hold the racket. Like I don't know what to do right
Mm,
now. My body just wouldn't respond, right? And then I would also get these like sometimes certain thoughts would get stuck in my head and they would repeat themselves like a broken record, right?
mm,
And that is what we call obsessive compulsive tendencies in
yeah.
action.
Yeah.
People, the perception of OCD is very like, um, you people who like, just like quirks. But
Yeah.
actually, the way it manifests, like there's a lot, there's a deep like burden that it attaches onto you. So I remember like if somebody said something about me double faulting, I remember
Mm,
this plagued me from like when I was 16 till honestly till I was like 23, 24. Well after I stopped playing tennis. Only recently has this gone away from my mind.
mm,
But whenever I used to serve, it used to feel like I was possessed by a demon. I used to feel like
mm,
someone just whispered double fault, double fault, double fault, double fault, double fault in my head. Right.
yeah.
So there were all these things that I was dealing with, and obviously your self-conception is very low.
Mm,
So, there was this extreme absence of confidence. But
mm,
at the same time, there was a part of my personality that was like, I must do this. So then
mm,
I also developed like this extreme brand of resilience to keep showing
mm,
up week after week. And even
mm,
in matches, like, I when I was playing the juniors, I was famous for saving match points. Like I've saved up to 17 match points to win a match
mm,
at one time. So it was a very strange like juxtaposition. In
yeah.
one way, I would wilt so easily, like with these meltdowns. In another way, like I just couldn't make myself quit. So
Yeah.
it was a really
Huh.
strange.
Yeah.
Uh,
You have such a good grasp on your condition and the game. How did you develop this? Because do you have support system that was working on it? Because the way you've been able to articulate everything has been really, really like clear. So how did you
I
did,
think
did
it's
you
a
did you do
combination
all
of
the
many
research by
things.
yourself or
Initially, yes. Initially, I took the burden of doing all the research by myself because the interactions
um,
that I had with coaches initially, I felt like nobody was willing to understand me. And the
hmm,
people who were trying to understand me had no blueprint, right? They say
hmm,
that if you're neurodivergent, sport is good
hmm,
for you, which it is. Like
hmm,
it's stimulating. But
hmm,
it's not like that. It's not that you just go and play and it's like, okay, whatever.
yeah,
High performance is high performance, right? And
yeah,
you need to collaborate with your brain if you want to play at a high level.
yeah,
And I just felt like nobody was willing to collaborate with my brain. I would get feedback, like, get your brain fixed. There's something wrong with your head and things like that. And as a 16, 15, 14-year old, like, how do you perceive that? Like that you take it very personally. So I was like, okay, my brain is broken. I'm, like not super blessed physically in terms of height and stuff. What do I
hmm,
do? So I have
hmm,
to do my best on my level. So I remember like I used to hit I used to hit by myself on the practice ball and I used to experiment with different strokes that I would learn off of YouTube and stuff. So that's kind of where it started. And then as I understood myself more, it graduated to like learning as much as I could about my body, about my fitness. I remember I did a small um, certification on sports massage. And then as I
hmm,
started understanding my brain more, it became a lot more about understanding personality and sitting with my own thoughts and really introspecting on, what is going on in my head.
hmm,
But at the same time, there are limitations to that.
yeah,
But I feel like what happened that was really good for me was at a big transitional juncture in my life, um, I I had all these thoughts and introspections on myself, right? But I had no channel to frame it through, nor did I
hmm,
have an outlet to kind of bring it out. And my perception of coaches had just become like these arbitrary sort of people, and I have to kind of work within what they do, but not with them. And
hmm,
then I met like two people who were like fundamentally very important for me in my life, in terms of me developing my mentality. One is a very, very dear friend of mine. Her name is Namita.
hmm,
Um, you know her as well. Like she's attached with the Indian Billie Jean King Cup team as the captain, and she took the time. She was my fitness trainer, right? And
hmm,
she also acted as a mentor figure when I was playing. And it was very kind of accidental how that dynamic unfolded. We met very randomly and we just started connecting a little bit about like tennis. And then she was someone who was willing to like stay with me and sort of figure out like the ins and
hmm,
outs of my head. And she helped me kind of cool down.
yeah,
And then I met probably the most important person in my sporting and even current life.
hmm,
Um, and his name is Mr. Ashutosh Singh. He's a
hmm,
former ATP player. He was ranked as high as 150. And he's now the coach of the Indian Davis Cup team as well.
hmm,
Um, and he was a fantastic figure for me to have in my life. He was very different to any other coaches that I'd ever had because everyone kind of focuses a lot on trying to enthrall you with results.
Mm.
as steady. But even when I was having results in my life, I was miserable
Mm.
because there was so much turmoil in my head. But
Yeah.
with Ashutosh sir, it was very different. And when I first approached him, I remember, I had so much I want to talk to with such a high profile coach when I first got, by his reference, I went and I started training under him. And he just told me a very simple thing.
Mm.
I want to talk to him. And he was like, listen, you're clever and I'm clever. There is no point in me giving you a breakdown over your game before I even get to know you or your tennis. So
Mm.
spend some time. And when we know each other, when the time is right, we will sit and we will talk and we'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Oh.
So it took us 6 months to have a proper conversation. Like he just observed me from afar. He gave
Mm.
me space to play and understand me, and he would give me like small pointers initially.
Mm.
After 6 months, I remember he came up to me and he was like, "Okay, are you serious about what you want to do?" And I was like, "Yes." So he's like, "Okay, you come tomorrow, we'll have that talk." And the amount of time that he has spent with me on court and off court, just being with me while I figure out my brand of problem solving. Right.
Mm.
He never tried to enforce like a way of thinking, a way of playing, a way
Mm.
of doing things. He always trusted me. So Namita actually first told this to me that your brain is your asset. You have to stop thinking about it as a negative asset
Mm.
just because, it's a little different. You have to use your thinking well. That's what you need
Yeah.
to do.
Mm.
And I feel like it was Ashutosh sir that kind of helped me put that in motion because
Mm.
he never claimed to understand things like neurodivergence and all. And he would always tell me you should get as much external help as possible. So I got a therapist who had nothing to
Mm.
do with tennis because I feel like I needed someone who could help me interface with neurodivergence. You talked about different types of identities
Yeah.
as it related to my life. And I already had my people for the tennis part by that time. And
Mm.
so a long time after I stopped playing, like professionally, Ashutosh sir told me one thing, which is he said that my goal for you was never results based. It
Mm.
was always I wanted to see you play, be happy on the tennis court. He told me that
Mm.
whenever I saw you were very troubled, and I wanted you to be happy while playing tennis. That's what I wanted to create for you.
Mm.
And that is the kind of goal setting I needed. I needed someone who sits with me and sets that kind of a goal. That
Mm.
if you're happy when you're playing, I trust you that you will play well. And
Mm.
I trust you that you will be able to set your own goals and solve your own problems.
Yeah.
And that's like the voice that I needed in my head. Somebody who could help me frame everything that was going on in my head
Yeah.
and work with me while I was figuring out something that's actually exceptionally complicated to figure out. And
Mm.
that presence has percolated so well into the rest of my life now
Mm.
because even after stopping playing tennis, I've been able to embrace so many difficult situations in my life with so much more calm and a
Yeah.
lot of composure because
Mm.
of the way that tennis allowed me to develop that introspective framework
Mm.
into how just being able to develop the tools to
Mm.
interface with the ways in which I experience anxiety, the ways in which I experience overstimulation, the ways
Mm.
in which I engage with things like emotional dysregulation or rejection sensitivity or like just attention burnout, things like that, right?
Mm.
And it is something that I carry till date because I remember prior to um, this phase that I had with sir, which was around 2.5 years, we worked very closely together.
Mm.
I used to have a lot of difficulties in academic settings, but
Mm.
since then, I was able to graduate from I was able to get into the master's degree. Like it was the topmost master's degree in my field of public policy, and I
Mm.
was able to graduate pretty comfortably with a distinction grade.
Mm.
And I was able to navigate like corporate life as well, super well when I work corporate. And now it's also helped me embrace sort of the uncertainties of going
Mm.
into entrepreneurship. Right. So
Mm.
these are lessons that I have carried with me from that time. So I felt like it was a combination of several things. A lot of these
Mm.
phases were very difficult in isolation.
Yeah.
So the 2, 3, 4 years where it was just me trying to problem solve. In
Mm.
retrospect, I'm like, man, it would have been so nice to have like someone to help me at that time.
Mm.
But at the same time, I had to go through that phase and then
Yeah.
meet the right people so that
Mm.
I could come out as I am now. And like the last thing that I'll add to this is also one thing that I missed out on saying is role models are really important, even the ones that you apply your imagination to. So obviously, I started watching tennis because of Federer,
Mm.
right? And he's always going to be my favorite of all time. But the player that I idolize the most is Andy Murray
Mm.
because he
Yeah.
personified that grit and that intensity of like, even if I don't like, we've seen him on court so many times, it looks like he has to go through the 7 cycles of hell before he wins
Yeah.
a tennis. but
Yeah.
he had that ethos of I will expend every last amount of energy and
Yeah.
every last, little thing that I can do to
Yeah.
maximize, the output that I can give on court. And
Yeah.
I remember reading his mother's autobiography on how they managed to build that player.
Yeah.
And
Judy
that
Murray.
personality really stuck with me. Judy Murray's book.
Yeah.
It's called Keeping the Score. I do recommend it for any tennis coach, or even young player. That's definitely a book to check out. Like it's a very off-kilter sort of suggestion, but that book really helped me
Yeah.
understand my ethos, and
Mm. Yeah,
that's
man.
kind of what shaped my
Yeah.
identity even.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, we'll have Namita on the podcast at some point. I think,
Oh,
sh-
fantastic.
yeah,
She'd be a great guest.
she'll be a great
Um,
guest to talk to.
Shout out to
And
Namita.
yeah, and I also like Ashutosh sir. I think uh, he has a personality. I feel where he's taking backseat and he's letting the athletes think for themselves
He
a
knows
little
when to
bit.
take the reins. Like you always feel
Yeah,
his presence.
yeah,
He's got a very
I,
specific personality.
yeah, I like
And I
that.
will say that the Indian Davis Cup team, ever since he signed on, we've done exceptionally well. So there
Yeah,
is definitely some merit in what he's doing. We were able to win historic ties in Switzerland and then again in Bangalore. I was there in Bangalore watching, everyone pull it off. So,
yeah.
from my eyes, he's been an exceptional influence.
Nice. All right. So we are coming to an end, but before that, you can quickly tell people what are you doing now. I think it's really interesting what you've been up to now. I think everyone, all the viewers should know about that. So you can quickly tell us about that, and then we move on to the last part of the podcast.
So my life has flipped on its head. I've traded the tennis court for the jungles. Ever since I was a very young child, we've always had a very close connection to nature and wildlife, particularly tigers. So I went deep down that rabbit hole. Um, After playing tennis, after trying corporate for a while, I was like, no, I need to be closer to something that anchors me. So I went into wildlife. I researched human wildlife conflict, so man-eating tigers and so on. And now I have an experiential travel company. It's called Canopy Wild, and we conduct really unique offbeat wildlife excursions all across India, in some of the most unique tiger habitats in the
Yeah.
country. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm now.
Yeah, if we have any listeners from India, maybe I'll just put your company's
Please do.
contact details so they can find you. Yeah, thank
Definitely.
you so much for that. Okay, so we have a game for you. It's called This or That. I'm going to give you two options, and then you have to quickly say what
Yeah.
you prefer. All right, ready?
Mhm.
Okay, team discipline or individual creativity?
Individual creativity.
Data analytics or coach intuition?
Sorry,
Data analytics
or
or coach intuition?
coach intuition.
Short intense training or long technical sessions?
Oh, I like long intense training.
No.
That's
Emotional
my cheat code.
emotional coach or a calm coach?
You need a mix.
No, no, you have to pick one.
Okay,
I'm
I'd
so
go for,
sorry.
because my coach is a calm coach, I will go for a calm coach.
Okay. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Speed or strength?
Strength,
Okay. Uh, Structure or flexibility?
flexibility.
Quiet environment or a high energy environment?
I like it a little quiet.
Little quiet. Okay. Practice drills or competition?
Competition any day.
Winning or personal improvement?
Winning versus personal improvement?
Yeah.
Personal improvement.
Okay. And training alone or training in a team?
Training in a team. I like people around me.
Yeah. All right, man. Yeah, you did well. Thank you so much for that.
Fantastic.
Nice. All right. So, what are your future plans now? Are you still playing tennis or?
I play every now and then. I'm getting back into the fold now.
Mm,
With my coach, with Ashutosh sir, we are building up our platform. It's called Active Sports, and we
mm,
have two centers right now in New Delhi.
mm,
And I'm planning to get more attached. I've already been mentoring a lot of our younger players.
Mm,
especially through this emotional side of things, just because I've had such an interesting experience with it. And now what we want to do is we want to really, you know, use our capacities and really try and give tennis in India a big push.
mm,
And it's been dormant for a little bit. It's been stagnating, and it's ultimately it's a sport I love, right? So
yeah.
I want to see people playing. I want to see tennis courts full in India.
Mm,
So we are trying to do some things on that end,
yeah.
and that is on the cards. And of course, the jungles await me,
Yeah.
as they always do. So I
Mm,
will be in and out of the jungles, tracking tigers across the country when
mm,
I'm not on the tennis court.
mm,
So it's a lot of like my entire journey, if I had to put it in many ways, I had to go through a lot of emotional turmoil
yeah.
and then find a space where I feel emotionally very calm, composed, and very ready to, like tackle the unknown aspect of
Mm,
uh, my passion. So if I had to put it in a
mm,
nutshell,
mm,
I spent a lot of my life
mm,
trying to fight who I was, right?
mm, mm,
So I thought whatever I was wrong. So I would like work very much against my brain, and I
mm,
would work against my interests as well. When I was playing also, I thought the way I played was bad, so I must play like other players do. And
mm,
I've now finally reached a point where I'm very comfortable with who I am. I'm very
mm,
confident in my capacity to do things in my own way.
mm,
And I feel like it is time for me to embrace the spaces
mm.
that I feel emotionally close to, and that's where I can make the most impact, and that's also where I can get the most satisfaction. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm gearing towards
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and thank you so much for all the perspective and your experience as a neurodivergent athlete. Dude. It was a great podcast. I enjoyed it. It was really good chatting with you.
No,
And
thank you so much for having me on. And it's always a pleasure to see you. I hope to see you in India again soon.
yeah,
Hopefully in the jungles, maybe in the jungles or the tennis court.
definitely, dude.
One
I
or
love I
one
love
or
the
both.
jungle. I love the jungles. As
Absolutely.
soon as I come back to India, that's the first thing we're doing.
Absolutely.
All right,
Also,
man.
you'll never go alone. We'll be back this season.
Okay, okay. Nice. And I
We'll be
love,
back.
yeah, and I love to have you back again on the podcast at some point because there's so
Absolutely.
much to,
I'd like to.
we can talk about. It's there's no
Definitely.
end. There's no end to how much we can talk about, like
Definitely.
tennis in specific. All right, bro. Thank you so much, and thank you for
It's a
everyone
pleasure.
who are watching the video. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.